Boa tarde, pessoal. Bem-vindo aí à terceira apresentação que a gente tem hoje aqui na trilha de arquitetura. É uma apresentação de uma empresa americana chamada Sleep Number. Tem um produto muito legal, que vocês vão ver aí. É um produto para vocês dormirem tranquilo. E um aviso só que a apresentação vai ser em inglês, tá? E vai contar um pouco da história da transformação digital da empresa. E eu queria dar um aviso, quem precisar de tradução simultânea, os fones estão aqui do lado. Quem quiser a tradução. E o canal aqui nosso, desse palco, é o 5. O canal em português é o 5 e o inglês é o 6. Tá? Quem quiser ouvir também pelo fone em inglês. É isso. Bom, vou chamar aqui meu amigo Thomas Loubier, diretor de estratégia da VTEX, para introduzir aí a próxima apresentação.
Obrigado, Demetrius. Hello, thank you for joining us here today. It's a pleasure to introduce you all to Graham Monty. He's the lead engineer at Sleep Number. Sleep Number is a huge brand name in the US. There's no equivalent for that in Brazil or Latin America yet. When we think of Ortobon or another mattress firm, it's not even close to what they are doing today, right? And they have 700 locations, and the business has grown tremendously for the last few years. We were just talking this morning that they have run out of zip codes in the US to open new stores. It's a verticalized business, and I think it's super interesting how industry, distribution, retail, and how they, combining all of this corporate structure, had to play the digital strategy at the same time. So Graham, thank you, and please share with us a little bit of the learnings and the pitfalls and everything that happened, right?
Thank you, Thomas. And thank you all for joining me here today and being so welcoming. It's my first time in Brazil, and I've had a wonderful time, so thank you all for that. And also, before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our lovely interpreters and the translators for doing such a wonderful job. Accessibility is not a topic I'm going to cover today, but accessibility and inclusivity is something very dear to me and very important, especially for events like VTEX or as big as this. So thank you, and keep up the great work. So a little bit about myself. Again, I'm Graham Monteith. I love building software. I fell in love at a very young age. I was fortunate enough to have access to a computer at 8 years old. And within a few years, I learned the joys of building software and basically forgot about everything else. I became obsessed with it, and I still am a little bit today. I was lucky some years later to be able to turn that into a profession. And in 2012, I joined Sleep Number to maybe share my love of software with them. And I've spent the last 10 years there building an engineering capability in a company where there was none. I referred to them as a software as a second language company. They did not know what it was, how to do it, or how powerful it was. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our journey over those past 10 years and the lessons we learned along the way today. But first, I'll tell you a little bit about Sleep Number. The company was founded 30 years ago, over 30 years ago now, on one unique premise, and that is individualized sleep or comfort. The founder, the creator, believed that no one mattress could be perfect for both you and your sleep partner. One of you is going to always sleep firmer, one of you is going to sleep softer, and one of you is going to suffer silently or maybe compromise. And even if it is perfect for both of you, it might not be perfect for you every day. You might have a long day at a conference standing, and you might need a firmer bed that night and a softer one the next day.
That's what I just said. What I wouldn't kill for a Sleep Number now.
Well, don't do that. But what we created at Sleep Number, or what the founder created, was a bed that adjusts on each side independent of one another. And you can do this all day, every day, from very firm to very soft. And yeah, so that's where we started. Our purpose now today is to improve the health and well-being of every one of our customers and ultimately society through improving the quality of your sleep. Now, I know this sounds like a little bit of yoga babble if you caught Mr. Galloway yesterday, but the thing is we can prove it. So the other unique quality of our mattress is that while you are sleeping, we're measuring your heart rates, your average heart rates, any variance in your average heart rate, your breathing rates, whether or not you toss and turn. We're using all of these data points to calculate how much restful sleep you are actually getting every night, and then quantifying the quality of your sleep in the morning for you in a nice, simple number. And we're doing this with incredible accuracy. So we have peer-reviewed journals affirming or asserting that our mattress will measure your sleep and all of these things as accurate as a polyomnography test or polyomnography test, one of the sleep lab tests where you go visit a clinic and a physician. We're doing that more accurately than they are, or just as accurate, but in the comfort of your own home. So every night, we're running the largest sleep study in the world every night on over 1 million sleepers. We're gathering those data points, and we're using those data points not only to help you, but to help everybody else too. So we've partnered with the American Cancer Society to funnel that data into their research to help inform how anybody with cancer might use sleep to recover or help them mitigate any discomfort with cancer. Maybe less important, but we're also partnered with the NFL. Over 1,500 NFL players and employees sleep on our mattress, and many of them love them. We can't keep them away from our brand. They'll take every opportunity to demonstrate their love. So I think we can all agree it's a very unique product. So how do we sell this online? How do we sell a mattress online? Especially, it's a unique product. It's in a class of its own. There's nothing else like it. And so many of our users arriving on the site will not know what a smart bed is. So that's our first hurdle. And even if we're able to demonstrate what a smart bed is to them, they might not understand it. They might be intimidated by it. There's a lot of technology. It looks simple right there online, but that's 4 or 5 products bundled together. And yes, there's a lot going on underneath there. So how do we even demonstrate those features to somebody who might understand a smart bed? And then thirdly, it's very expensive. So even if we can convey all of these things, how can we demonstrate the value of it to any one individual? Our average order value is somewhere north of $4,500. So these first 2 things become very important in getting to the third thing, or for them to even consider pulling out their wallet or credit card for a mattress like this. So
I think the way when I first was introduced to Sleep Number was, it's very expensive. There's no way for you to try. What you've tried before, you think it's good enough, which is your current bed, right? And if you buy it on the impulse and have remorse, it's double the cost to get it back and return. So the experience here, it's the key, right? And I think that's the tone of what we're going to share today.
Exactly, thank you. So we spend a lot of time and effort building excitement about our product and also building the trust. So those things, are a little easier to do. But how do we do that, right? So again, to go back to Professor Galloway's talk yesterday, he might suggest that we signal to you so that you want to sleep with us, right? So we do that by building very elegant, sexy online experiences throughout the entire customer journey. So this is pre-purchase. It's a product landing page. You can see we're very subtly introducing a few unique features. You can see the individual articulation of two separate sides of the bed. And yeah, I think we're doing it very nicely, very gently introducing you to the product. Here's a little bit further down the same page. Again, we're introducing new features to you, hopefully very gently, and I think, again, in a very sexy way. So we've got some subtle, very tailored animations, and then, by the way, did I mention we have foot warming on the bottom of these beds too? So hopefully you caught that with a little video animation as it rotates there. So beyond consideration and at the conversion part of a customer's journey, again, we have a very complicated product. So you can't just go in there usually and buy a mattress. We're going to want you to buy, the articulating base, probably some mattress pads or layers and things like that. And again, the challenge here again is we have to convey all of this value. We have to do it very simply for you in one streamlined experience.
And it's not like you're buying a pizza and you mistakenly put anchovies in it. If you put the wrong base, it's all over, right?
Yes, and a big difference too in our industry is people who are hungry for pizzas are going to spend more time looking at pizzas because they're hungry. Mattresses are a low interest category generally, so people are usually already a little upset that they have to buy a mattress. So keeping their attention through something like this can be very challenging. And also underneath all this is a lot of SKU complexity, so I don't want that to be forgotten as well. And then outside of the conversion journey, maybe a little further up funnel, we've also built experiences like this one behind me. So again, you'll see some nice animations, some nice videos, but the real prize here is a dynamic quiz. So a user will answer 9 questions, and we will feed those through, we'll call it an algorithm, but use that against our product catalog to build a unique set of products for you as a customer. And those answers to those questions and ultimately the products will follow you throughout the rest of your journey. So we've spent the last, I'll say 8 years of that 10-year journey testing and iterating our way to these experiences. We did not just go out here and decide we wanted to build something with videos or a configurator that looked like it did up there. The quiz itself, I think we iterated over for 2 years. The bed configurator, I think we've done over 100 iterations of it. Each one very small, usually taking about 2 to 4 weeks to release. And what I'm demonstrating here is some relative success. What we found is when we do these things and we do them well, and we optimize these parts of the customer journey, people want to sleep with us.
So in 10 years, you were able to convince 300% more people to purchase without going to the store.
That's right. And admittedly, of course, a lot of this comes from investing in the upper funnel and pushing users through there. But we've increased our conversion rates and also increased a lot of other key metrics, driving to store, things like that. So, and we've done all this too by only doubling the size of our engineering team, I guess. Well, we've gone from 2 to 12 engineers. We're still a very small but mighty engineering team. Overall, the team itself is about 30 people, 12 engineers, 5 designers, 5 QA, split across 2 product teams.
So Graham, in the beginning, you had 2 engineers, and you had a challenge to how to be able to get the right products. How was that first cycle for you?
I'm sorry, how
was that first cycle, right? In 2012 to 2016, and you had only 2 engineers and a platform, and you couldn't deliver the right products, you couldn't assemble the right products. So how was that part?
That's right. We'll get to that here in just 1 second. So we also did all of this pushing through a few large events. One of them, obviously, a larger global event, but we still sustained growth through that time. Another one that you might not be familiar with is the bed-in-the-box era. So it was about 2012 to 2014 when a few companies entered the market with the intent of completely disrupting it. So Purple, Lisa, and Casper all changed the game online for us and really pushed us to push our online experience. So today we've maintained and grown our market share, and I think Casper is now subsiding. Purple is next. So we've been able to sustain all this growth against all these challenges. So, to your point, this is where it all began. This is what our website looked like in 2012. It's not pretty, it's not sexy, but it got the job done. For the organization, it was largely an afterthought. There was not a lot of investment here. It was transactional, though. As you saw in the previous slide, we were doing $15 million in sales. But what we found is that most users were frustrated before they converted, or frustrated while they converted, or frustrated after they converted. But what we were able to demonstrate is that people wanted to buy our mattresses still, even despite this poor experience. So we knew the demand was there. And we also knew that if we were to reduce the friction along these customer touch points, that we could sell more beds and deliver more customer value. So knowing this, we began to evolve the capabilities of the platform. We did this in a way that's probably familiar to all of you. We worked with an SI, so we would come up with an idea, spend some time designing it, and sometimes very crudely designing it. Other times, maybe we'd prototype it. We'd hand that design off to an SI. They would spend some months building it, maybe shorter, and we'd spend a lot of money, and then we'd get it back. We noticed some problems pretty immediately. Some of them are very obvious. So, one, the feedback loop was far too long. We would spend months building these experiences and not get any customer feedback along the way. Second, many times when we did get the product back from our SI, it was not at all what we expected or what we wanted. And even sometimes when it was what we expected and what we wanted, it oftentimes wasn't what the customer wanted. So we knew that we had to speed this feedback loop up, spend less money, and optimize here. So how did we do that? We bought an e-commerce platform. We started with Hybris. If you're familiar, it's now owned by SAP. It's a fine platform. It wasn't the right platform for us, and it came with a lot of pain points. So first, what we didn't know when we were buying the platform maybe was that we were buying all of this with it, right? So with the licensing of the platform, we of course had to pay for static instances of all of these app servers. We had to have a primary, secondary DB server, DB cache. We had to load balance over 2 web servers. And then also, if we screwed up anywhere down there, we'd pay for it at the very top with our Akamai bill. So, so very expensive, very risky. And oh, by the way, if you're going to be owning the software and the software development lifecycle, you're going to have to multiply this by however many environments. So we're doing this 4 times over, spending north of $1 million just on infrastructure, platform licenses, and managed services to support this. So with the infrastructure out of the way, we focused evolving, again, the capabilities of the platform. While Hybris was very feature-rich, it has everything an e-commerce platform could ever possibly have. We found ourselves still only using the very core capabilities of an e-commerce platform, which is great. That's fine. We needed those. Those drive business. But we also began to need these other things. So things like store finding, reviews, loyalty programs, live chat, all of those very quickly became table stakes when other online mattress players entered the game. And so we began integrating all of those and expanding at the service layer of Hybris. So we integrated a lot of these to the back end, many of them to the front end. But as you all know, there's a universal law of physics that as the universe expands, so does the entropy, I guess, and so does technical debt in software. So very quickly, this became unmanageable for us. It became slower, riskier. Every time we made a change, we'd have to, make 2 more changes to support that change. And so the code base began expanding to support the needs of the expanding code base. So naturally, we found some agility. Again, we went to what worked for us. So we found more agility by modifying the presentation and UI layers. And to do this, we ejected our front end out of Hybris, created a new React build system for our front end technologies, and isolated all of the slow parts down below it. So we exposed the data we needed from the service layer, ejected the front end, and found agility here.
So just recapping a little bit. So the first cycle, you had the 2012. No, we don't have to go back, but we had 2012. You had that white plastered website.
That's right.
You proved the point. People could buy something expensive online, right? But you needed some commerce capabilities. You buy the most expensive thing out there.
That's right.
To use a little part, a little catalog, a little promotion, right? And then you figure out, okay, this also works, but it has a lot of baggage, right?
Yep, and very quickly we found we could drive more customer value at the very top part of
and also that's where the team strength was, right? The front end.
Also, that is where the strength of our team was.
And it's probably the first ever headless Hybris setup I've ever seen, or maybe anyone ever seen. I don't know.
We would like to think so. We'll call it ejected. You and I don't like the term headless.
I don't like the term. Ejected. You're right.
The head's right there.
Yes.
So that's the. Okay. One more slide here. So this was truly a golden era of our online experience. It's when we built more rich experiences in a shorter period of time, I think, than any other time at Sleep Number. So we evolved nearly every part of our customer journey. We built a beautiful store finding experience. You can see there. We built bedding planner tools that were used online and in-store. We iterated another 20 times on the bed configurator. We optimized everywhere.
So in other words, you're hauling ass now.
That's right. We're hauling ass. So this brings me to my first lesson, which is attention is precious. So spend it where you can drive customer value. Don't waste your time on the bottom of this triangle here. So this might be familiar to you. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the very bottom, you have eating, sleeping, all of the basic needs, physiological needs. At the very top, you have going to VTEX concerts, making memes or conferences, and dreaming. As this pertains to your website, everything at the bottom will be your physiological needs are going to be your infrastructure, deployments, all of those nasty things, and then your core commerce platform. Just above that, you have the table stakes. So things like loyalty programs, things like your store finding experience, the things that you need, but you maybe don't need to things that you know you need. And at the very top of this is where you find the most customer value. So these are where you find the rich user experiences, the nice, beautiful videos on your PLPs, the bed finding quizzes, store finding experiences. So the first lesson here is to buy everything on the bottom, buy most of the things in the middle, and spend all of your time and the rest of your money on the things at the top. Again, this is where you'll find the most customer value. So, with those needs out of the way, and after having found agility, you can move very quickly. But what direction do you move quickly in? So, before we moved anywhere in any direction on any feature, we were very careful to validate that it was going to move a needle in any one of a few important metrics. So, would it drive users to the store? Would it drive users further down funnel? Would it make them happy, right? And then we would spend a very little bit of time and a very little bit of money building a very cheap and crappy prototype. And then we'd put that online. And if users didn't like it, we'd take it down. But if because we built this on the front end, it was very cheap. We could be scrappy, and we can scrap it if it didn't work.
I think one of the message here, and I was just in a conversation now, another SI was saying that one of his engineers invested 100 hours to make a form. Let's call it a return form, right? And that's important. We all need a return, right? So it must be important for you to do that. 100 hours, is it that important? I think having those assumptions, it's not the best way to start something. You have to start somewhere, but then you can start cheap, and then maybe you don't need the return form, right? Because you don't have any returns.
That's right. You'll find that most things that the business really cares about, the users really don't. So things like CCPA forms, they're going to take a lot of time to build, but should you be building them, maybe you should be paying somebody to build those for you, because they're not really delivering customer value. But if they do, that's fine. You A/B test your way there. You measure the results, you validate your assumptions, and then you invest. Then you spend time building it and adding it to your code base. So the second lesson here is that if you're not testing and measuring the results of those tests, then you're only speculating, you're not investing, you're possibly just wasting a lot of time, a lot of money, and ultimately adding to the fragility of your code base in the long term. So, you're moving quickly, you're testing things rapidly, and you're adding a lot of scrappy code probably to the front end of your code base. What happened to us over time is that pretty much at a certain point, all of our platform now existed on our client side. So without really knowing it, over time we had moved certainly our business logic, we had duplicated that on our presentation layer. And in many cases, we also added a data access layer. And we wanted to save users' preferences in local storage. And so we also often added a data persistence layer to a user's browser. And so very quickly, we had sort of flipped the triangle on ourselves, and we had a very heavy top side of this, which is great. We're driving a lot of customer value. But what we found was that performance degraded very quickly. And for a while, that really did not matter. Like in the beginning, in 2012, when the experience was poor, people were still excited about the product, enjoying the online experience.
You grew 300%, right?
That's right.
It still grew.
It grew. But we wanted to grow some more. And the hurdle we're faced with right now is that all of this is degrading our performance. And I think this slide is for you, Thomas. This is our Lighthouse score today. So you can see it is not good. I'm not putting this up here proudly.
I asked Ram to put this here because I think it's super symbolic when we talk with any retailer, digital engineer, any team, is that, performance is down and I won't be able to sell. This is super important for my business. But as you've seen, the business grew, and I think it's all about the cycles that you're in. There was one cycle here, right, that you needed to be able to have the basic configurations. And then you went through that cycle. And then you had it. And then, now there's too much stuff here for me to manage. And my team, it's really good in the front end, right? I don't need to maintain all of this. So let me eject this part, give me freedom. and now I'm gonna haul ass. That was a second cycle, right?
That's right.
And it was a really good decision. The team grew, right? You showed the value. The customers were reacting to it. And maybe the technology that we needed wasn't even there, so there wasn't even a discussion to be made. And now there is. So I think it's the third cycle that we're going to probably go in the journey now. But I think the message here is that when we look at this, it's not like it's bad. It's definitely not good to have it, but there's a reason to it, right? And it was a principled reason. It's a fundamental trade-off that was made. Before, performance was part of a trade-off, and today, maybe not so much?
That's right. So it is a trade-off, and this brings me to my third lesson here, which is performance is a choice. Like you said, it was a trade-off. Back then, the trade-off for us was the right one was to ignore it for a while, I guess, or put it on the back burner. Today, though, the technologies exist to make this not an issue. So we're going back to the 90s with pre-rendering, with platforms like Next.js, Gatsby, and Remix out there. We can now shift all of those things that we put out onto the client layer back down to the server-side layer, and while doing so, improve the performance.
I think one of the main things that I hear on this story is that during this 10-year journey, they really bet on their skills, on what they knew they were good at, and they found the things to complement that and allow them to really focus on what they believe it mattered. And that was a good bet, right?
That's right.
It creates, cycles are everywhere. We were just hearing earlier today about ups and downs and everyone having these cycles, and it's a natural occurrence, I would say. But I think the lessons is bet on one thing and then really go for it, and then the next cycle you're going to be able to do the next thing, right?
That's right, and we're excited for our next cycle, possibly with VTEX here shortly. So
I don't know, hopefully.
I think there's a good shot. So in summary, again, your attention is precious, so is your customers. Invest your attention to keep your customers' attention and where you can drive the most customer value. While you're doing that, test and validate most things. Many things you might think you intuitively know. I've been on the internet my entire life. I thought I knew how the internet should work. I found that I'm not the average internet user, and I'm wrong almost 90% of the time whenever we test a product. So validate your assumptions, test them, measure them, and then invest. And then thirdly, again, performance matters. I don't think it did for a while for many customers or many people on the internet, but people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter by the day. And if your website's taking too long to load because you're loading the entire experience on the front end or an entire platform, you're not going to be able to keep their attention. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for listening. Sleep well, everybody, and dream big.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming here and showing the dark side as well, right? A lot of people go on stage and only want to talk about the bright side.
I'm bearing my soul up here. It looks like we have a question.
Okay. Hello? Yeah, thank you. You mentioned that you collect a lot of data when people sleep. You collect the data to kind of refine whatever you're doing in the product. Is there like a device that sends data to the servers? How does that work? Like, is it an IoT kind of a concept that you're doing?
Yeah, so some of this is proprietary, but the data, first of all, you're not wearing anything while you sleep in the bed, right? So all of the technology is inside the bed. You don't notice it at all. The data points, I believe, are collected in the pump and then transmitted to your phone and then to a cloud provider.
One more question.
Of course.
Sleeping is an experience, right? And you've been able to sell very well online. As I see, your revenues have gone up tremendously. How do you overcome that feel factor? Like, I need to lie down on the bed and see how it feels online. Is there some, like, I know you're doing find your bed and all of that stuff, but how do you technologically replace that feel factor to make a decision?
It's a great question. Thank you. It is, one of our biggest hurdles, biggest challenges, perhaps one we don't overcome ever. I think most people want to touch and feel their mattress, right? However, you see other expensive products like a Tesla being bought sight unseen. So that's really where we're trying to optimize, some of these touch points in the research path of the journey to build that excitement. But we're also driving a lot of people to store. So even if we build that excitement, they don't convert. We're going to be, for most people, I think 80% of purchasers start online at sleepnumber.com.
So it's another assumption, right? We need to find the people who have that fear, and if we can find a way to get them to overcome the fear, they're going to buy. But that might put everyone else that don't need that, an obstacle, where another way is just focus on the people that are comfortable purchasing like this and expand on that, right?
Yep, and it's, for us, always about meeting the customer wherever they are on their journey. So maybe they start online, maybe they go to store, hopefully they come back to one of them, and we want to follow them all the way through the journey.
Guys, I'm so sorry to have to cut the conversation. I think you guys can, and should keep talking, but unfortunately we need to move on with the schedule. So thanks a lot, Graham, again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.